Hello, I'm Donald Leggett, and welcome again to the latest London South East CEO interview. I'm delighted to be joined today by Eldur Olaffson, who you probably know as the CEO at AEX Gold. And AEX, this has come as a surprise to me, are changing the name to Amaroq Minerals and are dual listed on both AIM and Canada's TSXV market. AEX, as it stands today, is a gold and battery metals company focused on Southern Greenland. AEX has, in the last month or so, has become the largest exploration and development portfolio in Southern Greenland. So it's now the major player in the place to be in Greenland, with the Nalunaq gold mine its flagship project. And AEX wants to build a Greenlandic mining company which Greenlanders can be proud of. There you go, Eldur. Was that a fair summary?
No, I think you described it really well, and that's very kind of you.
Fantastic. So there you go. That's my bullet point intro for you. Now let's start with the name change to Amaroq Minerals. And in fact, it's Amaroq Minerals Limited. So tell me why Amaroq Minerals, and we'll unpick the limited in a moment.
Yeah. So Amaroq Minerals. Amaroq means in Greenlandic Arctic wolf, which is one of the rarest animal you can find in Greenland, if you can find it at all, right? Originally when we got founded, we were called AEX Gold, right? AEX means Arctic fox. So our logo and everything was related to that. And the reason why we chose that name was that Arctic foxes and Arctic wolves, they are on the search the whole day, or more than 50 to 60 kilometers they run, looking for food, looking for something to survive, right? Arctic foxes and Arctic wolves, they can travel across different parts all the way from America over to Europe, and they've been followed, single wolves or Arctic foxes also. So they are explorers, and they're exploring for something that is rare, which is food, but in our case, we are exploring for minerals. And we thought the relation to Greenland and having a Greenlandic name would further underpin our core purpose, which is to create a company that the Greenlanders can be proud of, and essentially a legacy in Greenland. That's our key concern and focus. So this kind of mirrors all of that. And another aspect of it is that our AEX Gold, AEX, which was your ticker, essentially only refers to gold, but we sit in our mind on a belt of critical minerals, and this belt has been already discovered by 3 massive deposits holding, by the European Union standards and the US standards, somewhere between 10 to 30% of rare earth. This is why Trump wanted to buy the country, exactly that region. So I can speak to it in a minute, but we think having those critical minerals, and often gold is a tracer mineral for these other minerals, kind of underpins that we are a gold company, but also a critical mineral company, and we are a mineral company, and that is how we want to perceive, and that's how we want to explore these assets.
Very good. And why limited? You're no longer Inc., you're incorporated, you're now limited. Does that mean your focus is slightly more London than Toronto?
No, we are listed in Toronto, and our company was set up in Toronto. So I think, and then our secondary listing was in London. So I think there's nothing magical about that. It was just kind of rang a bell to it. I have to admit.
I'm reading too much into it.
Yeah, definitely.
Not a problem. So let's take some time to unpick the latest license acquisition, which is a major step forward certainly in terms of acreage, but I suspect also in terms of possibilities. What does this bring, and why is it significant?
Okay, so I'm going to start on the kind of a wider front, right? So why are we picking up these licenses in South Greenland? And the key answer to that is that our geologists and our team over the past 8 years have been defining and building up a mineral system model. We often see this in the oil and gas sector, where you look at Norway and you look at East Greenland and you try to tie these together. You might say, Norway looks like this, and Namibia looks like this, and it's those kind of a model. But for this sense, it's minerals that we are tying it together. And if we start there, then you tie Canada to South Greenland, Canada and North America, and that goes all the way our system in different forms, because we have so much ground there, all the way through into Europe, Norway, Scandinavia, all the way up to Russia. So it follows the same trend. Okay.
You're talking about a mineral belt here.
Correct. And then when we start building big deposits on top of this belt, so you start with Voisey Bay, then you have the Gardar province in Greenland, where you have 3 of the largest rare earth deposits in the world. One is tantalum, one is rare earth, one is, well, 2 is rare earth, massive deposit. And they literally sit next to a town because people haven't wandered far. Then you go further, you go into Norway and you go up there into these big deposits up in Scandinavia. So we have literally just sit on that belt, right? And that's how our mineral system model is. And it's proven in Greenland, it's proven in Canada, it's proven in Scandinavia. We're just expanding that. And we're using our data and our exploration to do that. And this is virgin ground, right? And alongside this belt, we've already discovered what we believe is a massive copper deposit. We already discovered rare earths. We've already discovered graphite. We already have a discovery of vanadium and titanium deposit in Stemdalen, which we believe is a potential to be what we call like a Voisey Bay nickel deposit. It has slivers of nickel, cobalt, and PG on the outskirts. It hasn't been drilled. So you have all of these right elements and sizable element, and all the discovery haven't been quantified, right? And in the midst of this, you have the gold belt, the Vagar, which sits on this belt as well, but then it crosses with the gold belt that goes up and down to Newfoundland and up and down to Sweden. And that's why we think Vagar is so big. It's because we say something structurally complex, and in the eyes of and the listener of oil and gas, people don't like that. But structurally complex is really good because then you have fluid managed to go up in the mantle, right? And that's why when we put out Vagar last week, it just expands, and there is just gold written everywhere. And then we fly the geophysics over, and it's proving all of the fact that it is even larger. And this year, our intention is to drill that to prove the scale. And then we think we are sitting on one of the most notable and most exciting gold exploration potential world-class deposit that we need to drill out to prove, right, and then systematically drill it. But all of the elements are there, and that's why it makes it so exciting working in this area in Greenland, because
it's a big license. So why did Orano choose to sell it to you guys? Presumably they have high expectations of what you can do with this license, but why you?
Yeah, so I can speak on behalf of Orano, but if you want into it then. But I think what we did is that what happened more than a year ago in Greenland is that you had a ban on extracting uranium in Greenland, right? And that ban has always been existed in the eyes of the Greenlander for a long time. And there's been 2 different views of that. And the key element in my mind is that the largest uranium deposit is situated only 1 kilometer away from one of the largest towns in South Greenland called Nalunaq, right? And so Orano, as a uranium company, obviously had issues with continuing exploration or something that wouldn't be kind of deemed necessarily good. So what we then did is that we went out to them and said, we want to explore this for all of the other minerals than uranium, because it's so critical to it all. And we then said to them, if we find uranium and if this ban is somehow lifted, or the deposit are away from towns and so on, you can have a clawback on any uranium discovery. So it was like a win-win deal for both parties. I think as well, like what helped Orano and having this option and giving and we managed to create this deal is that we have the only exploration camp that is operational all year round in Greenland. There are 2 mines that have an operational camp, but we have an exploration camp open with the rigs and everything that you need to conduct your exploration program. People, contractors, and all of the different things. So we are set up in the region, and for anyone to set up anything in Greenland, it's like it's not an actual rule, but it's like a common rule. Think of it like this: any work you do, ×2, just the cost of being in Greenland, right? And it's costed us a fair bit of capital to set us up there, right? And that is the huge value that people get in using us and working with us. And that's what we're seeing with the interest that we're seeing in the whole industry, is that we have operated there for 8 years. We've trained people, everything from geologists to mine engineers. We have a procurement policy with local contractors. We managed to execute and deliver on the things that we set out to do. So that is starting to create a lot more value with all of this acreage in there, because it's not enough to have the acreage. You need to be able to explore it and then take the minerals out. So I've been asked a question, and maybe you're going to come to this, and sorry if I'm yapping on, is that why, why is Nalunaq so important? Why are your efforts so much focused on Nalunaq? And I think the investors need to understand that, first of all, Nalunaq is a fantastic asset, one of the highest grade gold assets in the world. But more importantly, it creates an operating base and a cash flow producing asset to support finding the elephants in the region. And it's also, I want you to stop thinking of this as a very lucrative gold mine and think of it as a concept mine for South Greenland. If we can create this really, really well in conjunction with the local community under the right code of Scandinavian rules that are operated in Greenland, then we have a blueprint for all of these other mines. That's why it's so important. And that's why you start with that, and therefore you explore for the big elephants, but then you can build that up. And then you have to take.
But hopefully Nalunaq produces a revenue stream for you, does it?
Of course, and in future we intend to obviously have that as well, which we can use some of that capital for further exploration. But
so it's the principles of how you do it, but it's also the fact that you can actually get capital and revenues, which is what you dearly need in order to explore all these elephants.
Correct, and so you're not always buoyant to the market and raising capital when and if needed, etc., etc. So you want to be able to be in that position, and that's the beauty of AEX. You get essentially a portfolio of a development to become a producing asset, and then this high stake exploration asset together with this team that we built around and the services all around there to create what I like to say, a mineral company where we are mining for green minerals. We intend to use green energy to mine them and to clean them, and then once that minerals are sold to the market in future years, say in 30, 40, 50 years, these green energy that we've helped build up in Greenland can then be used to recycle minerals again. So you're then creating a model for the Greenlanders and for us in the West, not to be buoyant to autocrats around the world where you need minerals in a region where you have to kind of maybe not follow the same metrics as we intend to do here.
Do you think the market for green minerals, which are produced on a green basis, will become more common, and it'll be what the battery manufacturers and so on require in 10 years' time or so? Do you think the future will start to reflect your principles?
I think I don't like to focus on business, and I come from the green energy industry, and we did well there, but I don't like to do it on the basis of that it would necessarily be done by laws or anything like that. I think more systematically, the West needs to think of how are we going to source our minerals, because we don't want to be in a position where we are today, where every single European country has set out to set up a battery factory in its country. The source of the battery we all know is graphite. We know it's vanadium, manganese, nickel, and these things. But battery grade nickel, you might have 2 or 3 proper mines in the world to supply these factories. So it's not only a question about where are they taken and are they green, etc., etc. It's how are you going to be able to get that? Because half of that battery nickel production is done in Russia, right? So how are you going to build all of these things? And so what we are saying is that you have these fantastic assets in Greenland. You have the right code, environmental code and licensing code. And then, yes, to your point, you can then create it from a green source or as green as possible, right? Because you're always having effect in this area that you're operating in, but you can try to keep the area there as pristine as possible. But that also gives us more independence as Western countries. And therefore, you see the US government, you see various other governments focused on Greenland because this is half the size of Australia. This is the mineral basket that is left in the world to explore and develop. And you don't need too many of these deposits to work. You need few, and then you can at least secure us, the more democratic Western nations, the material that is needed to contain our economic growth.
Thanks, Eldur. That was fantastic. Moving on to Vagar Ridge, which is a gold discovery close to Nalunaq. You described this as a potential multi-million ounce gold prospect in an R&S recently. Tell us all.
Yeah, so Vagar is an area that sits on this kind of a boundary of what we think is a structural zone that crosses South Greenland, and then another zone that comes into it from a mineral system model again, right? So there is a big event there that we can see, an event that could have moved in a lot of minerals, mainly gold, right? And what we believe is that the gold sits within the host rock, which is the granite, and also in veins, right? So-called quarterings, similar to Nalunaq, right? The veins, we know already, are extremely high grade. So previously sampled in 2014, we were getting up to 2,500 grams per ton. We were getting 70 grams per ton over 13 meters, but we were picking that gold also up in the host rock, which is not the actual vein itself, or we sometimes call it like it's like a slice of cheese or something like that, right? So what we then have done is that we've said, okay, let's run geophysics over all of this to understand the scale of this, what the human eye can't see, and the depth. And what we are finding is that with the geophysics that we've done and further sampling on this ridge, that the play is actually not 2 kilometers by half a kilometer, it is 4 kilometers by 3 kilometers. And we are finding new and new veins, and there are more and more minerals in the host rock from every single sample we take. And you have to remind yourself that this is an area with no vegetation. This has been scrubbed by glaciers, so we can sample all of the surface that up and down, right? But when it comes down in the valleys, where there is going to be scree on top of that, which we can then see more evidence of mineralization on a wider area.
And how significant might this be, on a world scale?
On a world scale, we believe we're sitting on a world-class deposit, right? That's the hope here. And what we intend to do with Varga Ridge is that we intend to use it as a blueprint for the overall licenses, because mind you, the geophysical survey flew the whole license, and we found 5 other areas with the same geophysical footprint and mineralization within those granodiorites and quartz as well. So this is potential to be extremely large. And what we want to do with Vagar, just like we did with Nalunaq, is that we want to drill all of that out on a wider scale, ideally this summer, so we can understand like the whole 4 by 3 kilometer.
This is scoping and not resource drilling, yes?
Correct. It is scoping, but it will give you the scale. It will give you and confirm the scale. The resource drilling is more like then you decide on if you're going to do it on a 50 or 100 or 200 meters, and then you just start yapping down rigs. It's more like a So I think we think, and our geologists by all means who are very conservative, they think this is one of the, if not the best exploration potential that they've seen, and that's very exciting for us who are working on this with them, especially because it's also close to surface. So this needs drilling, and therefore there's potential for massive value uplift there as we go on, and that's why we are so keen and excited. And the vicinity of Nalunaq is only 25 kilometers by sea, but 5 kilometer direct kind of a, if you would fly.
So the gold might be processed in Nalunaq.
I think the size of the hope is that the size of this becomes so large that the Nalunaq processing plant won't even get there, right? You will have to have set up a much larger operation. But
happy days.
Yeah, you can at least, when you're starting with bulk sample and so on, then you can start processing that satellite deposit in Nalunaq and increase the production there, so you can learn and understand the whole area. And from what we have to also remember, from an EIA and SIA, like EIA is environmental impact assessment and social impact assessment, obviously we have to do that for Vagar, but mind you, all of these assessments have been done for Nalunaq, right? And we are taking into account the whole area there. So you can see, once you get the first one going, everything else should be more straightforward.
And so on the positives, the authorities will be used to working with you, and they'll have faith that you are the good guys in this process.
Well, I think our strategy with the authorities for the past 8 years is one thing: collaborative and caring. They are very eager to see the mineral deposit in Greenland develop to strengthen their own economical stature as a country, but they want these things to be done accurately and correctly. So what we've done is that we've successfully worked with the government. We've always worked step by step with them, and we have, in our mind, built up a very good working relation with them based on trust and deliverables, right? And that's the only way. And you can only show that over time and delivered and by your action and by your behavior. So I think already we have a very good working relationship with the government, and we intend to keep that. And I think therefore, when you're operating in any country with any whatever minerals or oil and gas or whatever, you have to have that track record. And again, I think that's the foundation we have as a company in Greenland that not many other companies have.
Let me put this question to you, Eldur, which is the one that this is the crux, and one that I do keep coming back to. You have such a range of fantastic opportunities to develop. So can you talk us through the priorities in terms of capital allocation?
Yeah,
so many good things to go for. How do you decide, and in what order and time frame?
No, it's a very good question, because this is a key thing for us, and we have a special system for this. So our geologists, they ran a valuation model on every single asset we operate, and that takes into account scale, it takes into account chances of discovery, it takes into account various different methods. And these are actually 4 methods that James Gilbertson, our VP of Exploration, who used to do this a lot for us. We look at the stages. So the first stage is discovery, then you have geophysics and further sampling, then you have initial drilling to understand a scale, and then you have resource drilling, etc., etc. And if you think of it like Nalunaq has a resource, and we have a path to increase that resource and get it into production. Therefore, the biggest amount of value, if you do a TCF calculation, is related to Nalunaq, right? But then you have Vagar.
So Nalunaq should be first, and is a priority, yeah.
Correct, and therefore a lot of our capital allocation goes to that, and there's a reason for that, because you can be measured on that much quicker.
If you unlock Nalunaq, you unlock a lot of the others.
Correct. And then you look at Vagar, and then you look at, for example, Sava, and you look at Nalunaq, and you look at all of these areas. And then we also follow, like taking all of this into account, how we allocate. We follow the procedures of what we would call a 43-101 procedures in developing mineral deposits and or your compliant procedures. And we follow those procedures absolutely by hand, because it's important when we are, for example, working with larger companies or potential joint venture partners in the future, that we've done all of the work, and our team and our finances and our allocation is all collective one. Because at some point in time, we will find a major discovery and even larger, but there will also be some times where, you know, we deem something that is not economical, and then we'll have to move away. So having this discipline is extremely important, and extremely important for us to be able to communicate.
What comes after Nalunaq then?
So we have,
so far, as of today, what do you think the order is?
Yeah, so I think the order is Nalunaq, then we have Vagar, right? I'm going to start with gold, and then I'm going to go to, so I think we're Nalunaq, Vagar, and Nalunaq, okay? So Nalunaq, we are doing majority of our drilling last year and continuing this year, and then we're looking into further development there. Vagar, we're looking to do drilling hopefully this year, where we can drill and understand that scale of 3 to 4. And then Nalunaq, there we are anticipating, we're waiting for the results of Nalunaq this year, but we're anticipating, the hope is that could potentially be another elephant, but we still need the result. But then there we will be focusing on geophysics. If you then go for strategic minerals, it would be Sava, which is the copper. It would then be Stendalen, which we just acquired from Orano. And then we would move into rare earth, Patisuk, and or graphite, and so on. So these would be the orders that we would.
Fantastic. So you have a very clear idea of where you're going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. And funding?
Funding is very good at the moment. We are sitting on roughly 27 million Canadian dollars. Obviously, we intend to focus on, like, the capital we have today to explore everything won't be enough, but we can explore it to a certain stage. So again, this is why the Nalunaq mine becomes so focused for us to be able to create that cash flow to support further exploration. So we are very good. We're fully funded for this year and even into next year, far into next year. And so So that's all
Very good.
within
And
hand.
news flow, what can we expect in the next few months, say? Let's take a slightly shorter time frame. Next few months.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we are still yet to come back with news into the market of I want to say 3 to 4 assets, high profile assets, right? So that's going to be exciting for us to bring that forward. Then the team is preparing the camp and is on the ground, so we could be drilling as early as in beginning of June, right? So therefore we start setting up our priorities out the year. So we should be start getting news, impactful news out of all of these assets I explained earlier. So we're quite excited about that part as well.
And it's possible for you to get the results back to the assays faster than COVID times.
Yeah, so exactly. So now we are looking into setting up a small prep lab in Greenland. And we're still in process and in dialogues about that. And yeah, so and obviously due to the fact that COVID isn't there yet, then we should also move that quicker as well.
Okay, Eldur, we're out of time. I just have to say thank you. That was completely fantastic. You're the CEO at AEX Gold, soon to be Amaroq Minerals.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. That was a fantastic update. That was really very interesting. Investors, do take note. For more free company information and data about AEX Gold, please go to the AEX Gold pages in London South East. You get lots of free data there, chat board, plenty to talk about. And do follow us on Twitter at London South East, or register on London South East YouTube. If you put that into Google, you'll come across us. And just sign up for it, subscribe to receive alerts to see interviews just like this one. And for all you out there, thanks for watching. And as always, do stay safe.